know you brought some books here you want to share with the viewers. Can you just show them the cover and tell them what the book is about?
Definitely. So the first book I wanted to recommend was Countering the Conspiracy by Jawanza Kunjufu. This book right here was really my introduction to me. When I was in college, I read this book because, again, I had ADHD, dysgraphia. I didn't really know why I was in special education. Nobody really told me. I had to really educate myself as an adult about special education. And this is one of the books that was recommended. And he talks a lot about ADHD. He talks a lot about the overrepresentation of black males in special education and the underrepresentation of black males and females in gifted education. And he just talks about all those issues, and he also provides some different solutions. So this book, I really would encourage you, if you have a child with a learning disability or any type of struggles, especially black boys, I would encourage you, highly encourage you to buy this book, or to even YouTube Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu and watch some of his videos, because he really hits on this point real hard. So this is a book, I did the opening for this book, and it's a book that shares success stories from 6 African American males in special education, and this is available on Amazon. It's by Dr. Rashandra King. So if you want to read some narratives and learn about what some other individuals who had disabilities did to succeed, I highly encourage you to pick this book up. See, this book is also in the same vein. This is a book that I was included in, Untold Narratives, African Americans Who Received Special Education Services and Succeeded Beyond Expectations. And this looks at different disabilities, not just learning disabilities, but other disabilities. I wrote a chapter in the book. Shout out to Dr. Joy Lawson Davis. She helped edit the chapter for me, but I wrote a chapter in the book and I talk in detail about my experience. There's about 5 other individuals who talk about theirs. Dr. Sean Robinson, he's the one who sort of put the book together. He's a professor. He had a learning disability growing up, and he has a lot of literature, academic literature, which I think is really needed. We need more people to write about us on the academic level to really educate the educators, administrators, and parents about how they can effectively help us do best practices. Because I think that's something that's often missed, is that what are the best practices to help African American students achieve? Again, another shout out to Dr. Joy Lawson Davis. She wrote a chapter in this book. It's called Twice Exceptional, Supporting and Educating Bright and Creative Students with Learning Difficulties. I highly encourage your viewers to purchase this book. This book is good because a lot of times people don't think that a lot of kids with disabilities oftentimes have a lot of gifts. So if you look at someone who has autism, there's an individual, I saw a video. Now there's a picture of a kid, a guy with autism. I think he was on a helicopter. He went around the New York skyline, and he was able to draw every detail just by memory on a sheet of paper, just by seeing the skyline one time. With me, I was probably brushed off. Nobody really saw the gifts. Like for me, public speaking has always been a gift, probably because my dad is a minister. But that was always a gift. But in the classroom, it's no time for public speaking unless you're raising your hand answering the question. So it's a lot of kids who are very exceptional, but also may have a math deficit, reading deficit, maybe blind, hard of hearing, various things. But it's important that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need to take the child as a whole, see the gifts, and also see the areas of improvement. But this is a great book that has a lot of different contributors, different chapters looking at different issues. But I really would encourage you to get this off Amazon. Dr. Amos Wilson, The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. Highly encourage you all to read this. It's not a hard read. It may look a little thick, but Dr. Amos Wilson, if you even just check out his lectures, brilliant, phenomenal black man, and probably one of the premier black psychologists who has knowledge of who he is and where he came from. And this book is really great for parents. This book was written several years ago. However, I think it's still prominent, still important, today. And I also have Push Out by Monique Morris. It's not just a war on black males, it's also black females who are also getting pushed out of schools and being criminalized. So if you're interested in reading, if you look at the data, and I always tell people, disaggregate the data. Like in Virginia, we have SOL, standard learning tests, that the kids take. And based on those tests, your school can be accredited or not accredited. If you disaggregate the data, students with disabilities, black males, black females oftentimes have the lower test scores. And a way that sometimes schools can get around that is they'll push kids out of school, because if you're not there, then your test score doesn't count. Or if you have a certain disability, we can waive the test so you wouldn't have to take. So sometimes there's a push for certain kids to be pushed out of school or pushed in certain programs, so that way they can sort of eliminate some of the scores in the high stakes testing, which is crazy. Also, just resources in general. Understood.org, I talked about it earlier. If you don't really know a lot about disabilities, learning disabilities, physical disabilities, go to understood.org. They have a lot of resources, videos. You can actually message the people on the website to learn more about the different disabilities. But again, they have videos of different individuals with disabilities talking about their journeys, talking about their successes. I'm Determined. It's a Virginia-based program, but I think they're trying to nationally branch off. But if you go to I'mDetermined.org, they have a lot of resources for parents who have kids with disabilities. I will say Virginia is doing some good things when it comes to disability. So if you're watching this video from Virginia, plug in I'mDetermined.org. They have what they call a MOVE conference, which is held at Virginia State University, and it's open to everybody, but it really targets black males with disabilities. So you have a whole group, a cohort of maybe 300 black males with disabilities across the state, and they have different workshops for the parents, for the kids. They teach them how to tie ties, they teach them about conflict management, and it's just really a way to foster some sense of belongingness. I'm Determined, they talk about CAR. CAR stands for competence, relatedness, and the A stands for, what does the A stand for? I forgot what the A stands for. But when you talk about relatedness, like belongingness. So when you see other people that look like you, that are sort of going through the same things as you, it sort of fosters some sense of understanding and that I'm not alone. The competence piece, I feel like, fostering this idea that kids know what they're doing and that they're capable of doing that. I'm also a board member for VCU CTI, which is a Center for Transition Innovations, and it's a program that helps students with disability beyond high school, because at some point the kids will graduate from high school. Some kids with disabilities, you can keep them in the school, in their 20s, but most kids finish 18 and 19. So this provides them with job readiness opportunities. So some of them are working for corporations while they're in high school, and they may continue working for them once they graduate high school. They also have a certification at VCU where the student with disability goes to college and takes college courses and gets a certificate once they complete it. And it really just prepares them on resources, because you think about transportation. That can be difficult for someone with a disability. Accommodations at the job site can be difficult. So this program partners with local agencies and local school divisions, and then encourages them to reach out to these employers and let them know, like, hey, we have students with disabilities, we want to provide them with employment opportunities, and then those businesses make those accommodations for those students. But I tell parents, if you're a parent of a student with disabilities, don't just think about high school, you got to think about beyond that. Because if you don't prepare that student for life beyond high school, then you've done them a great injustice. Don't just think about high school, don't just think about your kid in the now, think about in the future, and make sure that you're encouraging those schools to give your kid as many resources, education, opportunities as they can. Because once that kid graduates, the school has no obligation to educate or provide any type of resources. So make sure you think about graduation, even if that kid is in kindergarten, because that is essentially the goal. What can you do within those 12 years to prepare your child to succeed as an adult? My former special ed teacher, she told me that I teach my kids how to do life with a disability. If you have to teach your kid how to do life, because a lot of jobs, even though they say they accommodate you, they don't. If you're in a wheelchair, a lot of these businesses are supposed to be accommodating that, they're not. So you have to teach your child, even though there's a disadvantage, there's a struggle, there's a disability, how can you prepare your child to do life with that? And a lot of times kids with disabilities, they have gifts, they have skills, they have knowledge, they've already dealt with a lot of perseverance and resilience, so they have tools in their toolbox. A lot of times what they need is that direction. And as parents, our job is to direct them. Our job is to be advocates. Our job is also to listen and to be counselors. For me, the self-esteem piece was something nobody ever really asked about, nobody ever really dealt with, but I had to sort of deal with it internally, and it was painful. No kids want to feel like other. No kids wants to feel like they don't know anything or that they're stupid. You hear terms like idiot, retarded. These are terms, like technical terms they used to call people who had disabilities and deficits. So even the stigmatizing names of different words that we use, sometimes we have to check that. But I think, the main thing is education. If you're a parent of a kid with a disability, please educate yourself. Going to those meetings, no. Your kid may not necessarily have a disability. They may need a 504 plan versus an IEP. Understand what options you have. Understand that, with an IEP, this is federally protected. So there's federal legislation, federal, laws around what the school needs to provide for your child. You have to understand a little bit of law. You have to understand a little bit of, based on administration. So just educate yourself. And if you don't know, reach out to an advocate, reach out to a legal service to help provide you with the guidance that you need.